Another beautiful day at the Hilo Farmers Market. Fresh coconut water right out of the shell, a great selection of fresh vegetables and fruit and handmade crafts and artwork. On the Big Island, we have an incredible variety of exotic tropical fruits, vegetables, and flowers from around the world. They are all able to thrive because the Big Island of Hawaii is home to 11 of the world's 13 climate zones. But we wouldn't have this amazing assortment of fruits and vegetables without the help of an often overlooked fuzzy little creature, the honeybee. We'd only be left with crops such as rice, wheat, and corn, which can be self-pollinated by the wind. These tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, and mangoes may take over 20 visits by our little insect friends to pollinate just one flower, which will become a fruit or a vegetable. For our local farmers, that means millions of very busy bees and thousands of hives need to be on the job each day. Not only do honeybees provide the essential service of pollinating our food and flowers, but since ancient times, it is this sweet, healthy, nutritious honey from the bees that we have savored the most. Bee products have been recognized from ancient to modern times for their medicinal benefits and are used as a panacea the world over. But recently, throughout the world, in over 36 states in the U.S., colony collapse disorder, or CCD, is a great concern to farmers and scientists. Bees simply disappear without a trace. We should all be concerned. If this trend continues, it could threaten a third of the world's food crops. There hasn't been a consensus yet about the main cause of CCD, but many scientists and farmers are studying mites and other fungal infections in bad weather. Others blame it on genetically modified crops and environmental pollution, including pesticides. It may be a combination of several factors, and the bees are a reflection of the health of our environment. However, in November of 2010, the Environmental Protection Agency released a little-known memorandum on clothianidin, a seed treatment for very large crops such as cotton and mustard. This document was brought to the public's attention by former governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, in his book, 63 Documents the Government Doesn't Want You to Read, published in 2011. In this EPA document, it states, clothianidin's major risk concern is to non-target insects, that is, honeybees. It goes on to say that acute toxicity studies to honeybees show that clothianidin is highly toxic on both a contact and an oral basis. Clothianidin and several other systemic pesticides are still in use today while honeybees continue to disappear. Whatever the cause of CCD, it's important that we solve this problem and protect the honeybee and other beneficial insects. We rely on them for our very survival. This is the booth of Wa'okele Honey, a local business owned by Mike Harris and his two sons Sean and Michael. Michael is at the booth today greeting customers and passing out tasty samples of honey. Both Michael and Mike Sr. can be found on Wednesdays and Saturdays at the Hilo Farmers Market. Sean is usually busy tending the bees and collecting honey in several locations on the Big Island. In Hawaii, there are also many challenges for our beekeepers, including rainy weather over several weeks, which prevent bees from gathering nectar and feeding their young. In the past few years, starting in 2007, unwanted pests, such as the varroa mite and the small hive beetle, have caused great damage, and beekeepers lost over 46% of their hives on the Big Island. Even with the many challenges of raising honeybees in Hawaii, the Big Island also provides tremendous advantages and one of the highest quality honeys in the world. There are several months of warm, sunny weather throughout the year, which provides an abundance of fruit, flowers, and trees. Many are wild and organic, which continually provide flowers for the bees to gather from. Ohia, coconut, and much more produces subtle but distinct flavors, unique to only Big Island honey. Outside of Hawaii, beekeepers often push their dwindling populations of bees and resort to feeding them sugar water treated with antibiotics during lean months of bad weather and no nectar from flowers. Often this sugar water is derived from genetically modified sugar beets. Honey purchased from the Hilo Farmers Market is created from pure, wholesome flower nectar, so this honey is the real deal. What does it take to bring a jar of Hawaiian honey and other bee products to market? Let's find out by visiting Sean Harris at Wa'okele Honey. I think you'll be surprised. Wa'okele's Bee Farms is located about 4 miles from downtown Hilo, in the middle of a macadamia nut orchard. In the mainland, beekeepers often move their hives on trucks to orchards and farms in bloom and charge for pollination services. Most beekeepers in Hawaii locate their hives in mutually beneficial areas with farmers without charging for pollination services. They usually make their living from the honey and bee products alone. That is the case with Wa'okele, and they also farm tropical fruit in other areas of the Big Island to supplement their honeybee operation. We greet Sean Harris at the farm's gate and put on our bee suits and assemble our video equipment. Sean sends puffs of smoke around the hives, triggering a defense mechanism in their tiny bee brains. Warning! Forest fire! Let's get back to the hive and protect our young larvae and honey. That helps to calm the bees down so they're not so aggressive. Sean starts opening hives and explaining about beetle pest management.
If I don't scrape all that stuff and I just put it back together, beetles will lay eggs in it. We got to be clean when we open up the hives. That's what we're getting in there. That's about good 200-300 beetles. At 15 mils when it's full, about there. The state counted 600 inside of there. It should be right by now. I checked it a week ago. Looking pretty good then. Nice ripe honey.
Sean continues his search for ripe honeycombs and gently brushes bees away instead of using a commercial spray.
Most commercial guys usually use the spray, the Vigo. I just use a brush. Don't want the honey tasting like chemicals. That one's not quite ripe yet. It's still got a bit to go. That one looks ripe. Basically, I want to see 90% plus of the cells closed over, so that way I know that the honey is going to be as ripe as possible. The most enzymes in it and the flavor. The lowest moisture content. I have a wooden bound queen excluder right here at the center, dividing my two boxes because the queen with her larvae is going to be in the bottom one, and above that is going to be all honey because the metal grid is precisely welded so that way the queen, she's so large she doesn't fit through there. So all of this honey up here is going to be pristine without any larvae. Roll my traps back in.
Sean was very comfortable with hundreds of angry guard bees looking for any opportunity to sting, and nonchalantly continued his presentation.
Primarily going to be coconut honey. Most of this stuff is going to be real white and clear. During this time of the year, that's what we were getting last year. I might be able to squeeze out a couple more grains. They just don't look like they're capping it off. They're eating it all because of the rain. Next one looks like it might be ripe though. Main thing, it's 90% plus cap, then it's going to have the lowest moisture content. Looks like the rest of it needs to ripen inside of there. Spacing is the major thing. If you don't get the spacing right where the bees can go in and maintenance it, that's where Most people lose the bees.
Sean continued to puff smoke around the hives to prevent aggressiveness, although I did notice Sean shaking his hand a few times during our video session as they stung him through his gloves. That just seems to be part of a day's work for a honeybee farmer. The next morning, Sean and his father Mike arrive at the Hilo Farmers Market's certified kitchen with their frames of honey. They are greeted by Market Master Keith Dela Cruz.
Hi, I'm Sean Harris of Wapakele Honey Company, and this is my father, Michael Harris. Hi. And yesterday we went through 3 honeybee hives and we collected 10 mature frames of honey. And let's see what we got today. We'll put on maybe about 50 pounds of product out of this. So this first frame here, I'd like to see about 90% capture or so of the product.
Sean uses a long, flexible knife to cut the wax that seals the honey in the combs. He also scrapes with a metal comb. Then he hands off the frame to Mike to place into the honey extractor.
All of the cappings, because we don't feed our bees sugar, we let our bees feed off of that whenever they're hungry inside of, for say our farm in Hawaiian Acres at the end of the season. Pollen in the honeycomb, after it sits for a while, they call it bee bread because the yeast and the enzymes that form in there, that's partially why raw, unheated, unfiltered honey is so good for you, is because of the other nutrition that's inside of there besides just the honey.
Sean and Mike continue their choreographed dance of production honey extraction that they've rehearsed hundreds of times before. Carefully uncap each frame, hand off, and into the honey extractor.
Nice light stuff today.
When several frames are loaded, Mike starts the honey extractor, spinning out the fresh golden nectar that collects into a large bucket, unfiltered with all the nutrition. Then it's bottling by hand.
Beehive to glass jar in less than 24 hours, ready for the market, ready for the consumer.
It doesn't get any fresher than this. The next time you visit the Hilo Farmers Market, try some delicious samples of Big Island honey. It is some of the very best honey in the world, all made possible by very dedicated beekeepers and their very busy bees. Here are a couple more vendors of fresh Big Island honey at the Hilo Farmers Market. B. Mo Betta Honey, represented at the Hilo Farmers Market by Debbie, shown in the photo, at Bill Della Sala's Banana Booth. Call Upon a Gold by Scott Hertrick. There are other beekeepers that show up each week, so stop by and look around. I think you'll be impressed at the unique and nutritious products our Big Island farmers bring to the market.